Let's party.
Hello, welcome to Party Loaded. It is episode 204. We're stepping right into the busy time of the year, getting stuck into talking about everything that's happened in the last 12 months. To join me to do that tonight, my name, of course, is Luke Catalogue. We have on the right of me, we have Christian Paulson Brown. On the bottom right, we have Matt the Game Dad Diet. And right below me, somewhere in the groinal region, we have Adrian Chair.
Right in the region.
Right in the region.
Funny, that's
Right
often
in
how
region.
I'm introduced in most places.
That's it. You're in the
Totally
hot
on
seat.
brand.
Nice. Oh man, it is hotter than freaking hell. It is ridiculous. It is the exact type of weather that I would like to be in a room with air being blasted at me, probably playing games. But I'm happy to take a break and talk about them tonight because goddamn, it is.
Talk about them?
Talk about them, yeah. Chalk it up.
Chalk.
Chalk it up.
Yeah.
Chalk outline.
And Christian, don't give him the opportunity for puns.
Yes.
Just roll with it like he didn't trip up. It's fine.
Don't throw charcoal into the bushfire. Just like retreat.
Oh dear.
There is an immediate threat to lives and homes.
No, that's true. That's true. And I mean, we complain about that over here, but we don't have volcanoes erupting on us either. That was a pretty tragic bit of news this week too. So,
Yeah.
as hot as we complain we are, there are certainly people worse off elsewhere. But anyway, world events aside, we should talk about fun stuff tonight, take our minds off such things. It is video game chat time. Tonight is the beginning, the part one, if you like, of our annual party favourites. So it's basically where we look back on the entire year and across a range of different categories, start talking about the stuff that really stood out to us. So highly subjective, of course, as always. Would you expect anything different?
My opinions are all massively objective. It's just the rest of them are wrong.
Yeah, sure.
Mine are factual. There is no objectivity. Every single one of my opinions is backed up by hard evidence.
By
Science? Just adjective. Just adjective.
Adjective.
Fucking shitty, amazing, terrible.
Mine is synonyms.
That's a good adjective.
Radical, bodacious, cowabunga. Anyway. Before we get into any of that stuff, though, we've been playing games this week, in theory. So who do we want to throw to first tonight? Anyone? Any takers?
I'll take it.
Go for it.
Me.
Go for it.
Me. Ooh, pick me.
This week in gaming, Christian, go!
So I've just been playing more Red Dead 2. I am back into the thick of it. I'm deep in now. And other than the controls, I'm enjoying it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten to the point now in the story where I finally care about it. It took me maybe, including the time I played last year, 20 hours until I actually gave a crap about the characters.
That's what you want with a video game.
I know,
you want to sink 20 hours into it before you start caring.
It's really the intro is a slow crawl. It really is.
Yeah, 20 hours. Especially, it's mainly just the main character Arthur. For so long, he just seems like he's just going along with the business, just grumbling occasionally, but having no real character. And it's only when something happens to him or something starts happening to him that he starts getting more interesting and there's more sort of inner conflict. But until that point, it was pretty crap. I think, and because there's also this nagging sense of inevitability with Red Dead 2 because it's a prequel to the first one, and the first one is all about hunting down the remainder of the gang. So at the start of Red Dead which characters from the gang are alive. There's an inevitability where you're like, okay, so how long is it going to take until all these characters die except for the ones in Red Dead 1? And sure enough, that has been most of the story so far, is characters occasionally getting picked off. And
I thought it was a sequel.
No, Red Dead is a prequel.
Yeah, Red Dead Redemption 2 is the prequel to Red Dead because that's how numbers work, apparently.
So there's Red Dead Revolver, which is not connected to either of them. That was the first one. Mm-hmm. But then Red Dead Redemption 2 is a prequel to Red Dead Redemption 1.
Red Dead Revolver is one of the multiverse instances of the Red Dead cinematic universe. Yeah. So,
You thought what, Matt?
I thought that the guy from the first game that you see in the second game is the son, not the dad.
No.
That because he looks super like the son did at the end of the game.
Right.
Fucking confusing.
He's not, and like because the son is in the game too. Jack, John Marston, the protagonist from Red Dead. Jack is in this game as well, and really because of the time frame, they can't really do a sequel to Red Dead Redemption because the epilogue is set in 1914, which is like practically like after the end of the Wild West. Like that's already pushing it. So if they went further than that, then it wouldn't be a Western.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just shocked. It was like I put like 30 hours into it and I didn't actually pick up on this.
Right.
But here's the interesting thing though, like your mileage is going to vary a lot depending on whether you played the original Red Dead Redemption, and I hadn't. So I actually went in not knowing a lot of these characters. Like I knew who Dutch was. Because being such a central figure from the first game, you kind of hear about him in the ether. And I knew obviously that he wasn't going to die because he needed to appear in the next game. I knew that John Marsden as well was the central character, but apart from that, like I wouldn't have had a clue. So
For me, it's like I'm going to assume they all die. Maybe one or two of the characters like disappear and then they're just forgotten about in Red Dead 1 conveniently. But at the moment, even still, I'm always like, every time John Marston's on screen, I'm just like, show me more John Marston. Like, I actually care about him from the first game. Just let me hang around with him more. And I'm hoping that as the game progresses further, that he will be involved more. Because for a lot of it, he's just in the background.
Where does Red Alert slot into the chronology?
That's when they travel back in time and kill Jesse James.
One of the trains that they hijack later on is full of the early Tiberium. So, yeah.
I don't know anything about Red Alert. So.
Red Alert is because they travel back in time and they kill Hitler.
Oh, is that what it's about?
Yeah, and Red Faction is like the sci-fi sequels.
Oh, there you go. Excellent.
Yeah.
But yes, Red Dead Redemption 2, very fun world to exist in, and I care about the story now. It's beautiful, but the controls suck big time.
Yeah, it's super tricky to come back to after you spent a little while away from the game as well, I've discovered. So
it is. It is. But like, also, I have to say that the main actual gameplay of Red Dead 2 is just a shooting gallery. Like, when you're doing the story, every story mission is just conversation followed by shooting gallery, where you just hide behind something, pop, 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 move, pop, 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 pop. And the actual main story gameplay is really quite lame. Like you can do other interesting things in activities like hunting and fishing and everything like that. But main story gameplay wise, it's actually pretty naff.
I think that changes a little bit further into the game. Like, yes, there's a lot of shooting gallery stuff, but there is definitely missions in the main storyline that is not always just like that. So
I did the hot air balloon one. That was fun, but you're still just it's just a shooting gallery and a hot air balloon.
It seems like a safe place to have a shooting gallery.
Yeah, it doesn't. It ends probably how you'd expect it to end.
Excellent.
Cool.
Yeah. So, do you have any desire, sort of having done this, to check out the online offering? Do you think?
Nope, not at all.
Okay, interesting.
Not one bit.
Fair
Don't give a shit.
What was our famous line when it comes to multiplayer, Christian?
Get the fuck out of my game. Is that what you're thinking of?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Wow, nice. Yeah. So, Matt, does that encourage you to check it out again at all?
Look, it's a game that I was deeply unhappy with because, like you say, like it's hard to jump back into with the controls. I found it hard to play with the controls. Period. Just because they frustrated me so much. But I do kind of want to go back, especially after having put some time in with Death Stranding. Weirdly enough, just because that wandering kind of gameplay is actually kind of nice.
Yeah, if you take it like
that's not the key of it. Yeah, the cool thing. So yeah. It's
funny. Like at one point, I actually sort of looked at all of the requirements for the platinum trophy in that game, and I think that it's probably not worth it because there's just so many that would just take a lot of time to complete. But if I was approaching the game from that aspect, as you describe, as more like a chill kind of exploration game to tick things off at a more relaxed pace, I think that it probably could work out all right for that. So particularly some of the hunting tasks where you go after the one-of-a-kind kind of beasts, they seem quite fun. So, otherwise I tend to agree. Do you think that Rockstar will do another Red Dead in another 10 years? Do you think that's a thing that they actually care about now, or do you think this is their one shot that they kind of maybe didn't quite land?
They will.
I think never say never. Like, nothing goes away forever these days, so it'll come back eventually. But whether it's 10 years or 20 years, like whatever form that will take, eventually there'll be another Red Dead.
It'll be a musical. Yeah. Everything always comes back as a musical.
That'd be awesome. I actually played that.
Paint Your Wagon?
Shane Warne the musical was recently a thing. Beetlejuice, a musical, very popular at the moment.
I found out Green Day did a musical. I didn't know that.
Yeah, there you go. Everything becomes a musical eventually.
Really? Hang
Yeah,
on.
apparently,
will eventually
American
become a
Idiot. They have a musical called American Idiot.
Right.
Green Day.
Is it all about
It
Trump?
sucked. It got cancelled straight away.
Oh, really? Okay. Interesting. Hang on. Beetlejuice was a musical to begin with, so
No, it wasn't.
wasn't it? It had musical
No.
numbers in it, didn't
It
it?
had songs in it, but it wasn't a musical.
Okay. All right. So how many
Do not
songs?
go to bat with me about musicals, Luke. Like,
No, I'm genuinely
it's not a safe
interested.
territory for you to take
No,
me
no,
on.
I'm coming into this as an ignorant sort of viewer. Adrian, in your opinion, how many musical numbers does a movie need to have before it's considered a musical?
The characters need to sing to advance the plot. That's the definition of a musical.
Okay, all right, interesting. Fair enough.
One more question. If you could turn any musical into a video game, what would it be?
Little Shop Horrors.
Fair
That's
enough.
a pretty good answer, actually. I
It's
like
just my
that.
favorite musical, so that'd have to be the answer.
Yep.
I'm satisfied.
I couldn't think of anything, but if I were to swap that around and say which game would I turn into a musical, like there's so many things that I could think
Doom.
of. There.
Doom. Fuck yeah.
Music.
No, they'd have to call it Doot though if they were going to do that.
I just imagine like a line of chorus girls all in
I imagine like all like the skeletons, the revenants,
Yeah.
doing the
doing the can.
Absolutely. We haven't
if-
seen any evidence yet of the heavy metal choir that Mick Gordon put together for Doom Eternal either, so curious. Yeah.
You know what?
If they do Mass Effect or Halo, then it can be a space opera.
Musical.
Yeah?
yeah.
not bad.
Halo would be good.
Yeah.
Halo would be good.
It would just be it'd just be 2 hours of people going, oh,
And Master Chief saying nothing.
Yeah.
oh.
He'd just be miming everything on screen. Yeah. All right. Well, Red Dead aside, I'll jump in very, very quickly. My week in gaming's been pretty light on because, surprise, surprise, end of the season of Destiny 2, I've been cranking stuff out. So I will quickly talk about Destiny for a sec because we haven't mentioned the thing that's happening at the end of tonight, I don't think yet, and that is that the new season is about to kick off, which is Season of the Dawn, which they've done some kind of interesting stuff. It looks like they're going to be doing the whole time travel thing. For the next story arc, whether that's actually time travel that sticks and advances the plot or whether it's like in a bubble. It seems like it's probably going to be in a bubble. Maybe a little bit of plot advancement, who knows. But they're bringing back an old school character who, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, Saint 14 is a Titan character that has been alluded to in a lot of the background but never actually been a part of the game because he's always been assumed dead. Is that correct?
Yes, so we've gotten his armor, we've gotten his weapon, and he's actually part of a paracausal loop.
Right.
Where we were always going to bring him back because in the plot, I'm not going to get into it. Fuck you guys.
No. How do you bring back the guy?
No. I could see Adrian and Christian slowly leaning in to do the whole thing. Like,
Tell me more.
okay, no, seriously, yeah. Like in the lore and behind the scenes, Saint 14 was always brought back. And our guardian always gave him back his gun, and he would go back in time and die so that we could pick up his gun to return it to him.
Okay. That's some weird timey-wimey loopy shit.
Yeah, so that's finally happening. We're bringing him back, and we're giving him his gun, and he's probably going to go back in time at the end of the season.
No,
Sleep with his mum.
that's bullshit. I'm going to keep his gun. His gun's mine. He ain't getting that
He's
back.
just stuck in an infinite loop
Yes.
because there's no version of him that progresses further in the timeline.
Yep.
Poor whoever that is.
Paracausal loop.
12 monkeys shit.
Yeah, absolutely. You take his helmet off, and in fact, there's like a stack of monkeys in there. No,
Turtles all the way down.
that's it. Yeah. No,
There's also been teasing about saving an old friend, which has the whole Destiny community losing their shit, thinking we're going to save Cade 6. It's not going to happen.
no.
Don't do that.
I would really be angry if they did that because it takes all meaning away from that significant event.
Yep.
So yeah,
No one's ever really gone.
this is true.
What I would love, what I would love is for us to go back in time to try and save Cade 6 and fail again.
Yeah.
And again and again
Just get
and again.
Cade 7. I'm sure he's better.
Just get Cade 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, what happened to Cade 1 through 5?
Now you're asking the real question.
There's
Questions they don't want me to know.
I'm not doing this.
there's at least one reference to that stuff, but yeah, let's not go into it. But The thing that I did want to mention is that closing out this week and closing out the season, I did manage to achieve the seal for the season, so I'm very happy about that. So again,
Congratulations.
I've ordered the medallion straight from the Bungie reward store, and that'll be winging its way out to me shortly. So yeah, pretty cool. Happy with that. And as a result of finishing that, I've now dived straight back into things that I've been missing for a while. So playing more Jedi Fallen Order. The other thing that I picked up, which I'm really hoping to chat about next week, is I am in the middle of episode 3 of Life is Strange Season 2, because I stopped playing that back when partway through the year, they sort of announced the release schedule was going to be like really spaced out. And I was like, I'll wait until they all get done and then I'll play them all in one big hit. So the 5th and final episode released about a week or so ago, so now they're all there, so I'm going to smash through them and then I can chat about it in its entirety at the end of the week, just before we go on break this year, so that should be good. But episode 3 has been pretty good so far. I'm really impressed by the game. I think it's excellent. I think the characters are excellently written, they're quite compelling, the story's interesting. It's not quite as supernatural kind of cool factor as the original Life is Strange, because that had like this unknown sort of element to it and you kind of trying to work out what was going on and you didn't know what kind of game it was. This time I think there's sort of expectations that have been set by anybody who's played through the first one, so you know there's going to be like a supernatural theme in terms of like kids being able to do stuff that they shouldn't be able to do, and it's going to be some sort of tale about them coming to terms with their power.
Drugs?
No.
Just out of the blue.
Drugs?
No. Supernatural drugs? No. We just got a new Ghostbusters trailer this morning. I'm curious if there's going to be any supernatural drugs in that. That looks like a possibility. Yeah.
And that was weird.
that would be very cool. But no, anyway, I'll see how it goes. I'm thinking it's going to be still an excellent game, just really immensely let down by the crappy release schedule it's had throughout the year. So, yeah, which is a shame.
Wait until it's all done and play it all like I do.
Well, that's exactly what I should be able to do this week. So, yeah. Adrian, dare I ask? Have you found the shiny?
Just what's the count?
What's the
That's all
count?
you need to know.
The count in hours?
Yes.
Sure.
140 hours.
And the results?
140 hours.
No shiny.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
There's not much more to be said about it. The fact that that's what I've been doing.
Why are you still doing this?
Because it can't defeat me. I need to...
So, for anybody who's missed out on
It's
this,
yourself.
really quick recap.
You.
Adrian's playing through Pokemon Sword? I want to say Sword. Shield. Okay, Pokemon Shield, and he's been on the hunt for a particular shiny Pokemon for the last, how many hours again? 140?
140 hours.
140 hours. Now, I'm just going to put something in perspective. I actually discovered a website this week, which is called wastedondestiny.com. I'm sure Matt's probably familiar with this one.
Yeah, I am.
So I was able to do a count and work out how much time I've spent in Destiny this year.
You're getting ambushed, Adrian.
I'm getting nervous.
Yeah.
What's happening?
Oh no, don't worry. You're still in the green as far as compared to this goes. So since the beginning of the change over to Steam, the number of hours that I have put into Destiny is 278. But in total, with the Steam time plus all the rest of it, Destiny 2, 642 hours.
There's a very
its entire lifetime.
important difference between these two things.
Yes.
One
Destiny 2 on PC came out 3 months ago.
So, Adrian, you're already at about a fifth of that.
He's getting things in Destiny.
Yeah.
He's doing story and getting items.
So, Adrian, you spent 20%.
Nothing.
20% roughly.
Nothing.
I'm achieving plenty of things. Thank you very much. I did actually go back and finish it last night. I finished the game.
Mm-hmm.
So I did go back. I must say this is outside of 140 hours. I did finish the main storyline of the game, did the post-game content. And I even decided that I might try and fill the national decks. So I have spent a little bit of time doing things other than looking for this particular Pokemon. And I have also begun the IV quest. So I've started... that's not a real quest. It's just what I call it. That's like finding Pokemon with perfect stats. I have started the process of looking for Dittos.
The IV quest is when you're so deep into the shiny hunting that you just have to start intravenously injecting the game into your veins.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah. The hunt continues. And
Do you have a Japanese Ditto?
No, but I have some good Australian Dittos to trade for Japanese Dittos. So I've got them ready to go. My little Ditto whores to be swapped internationally. Yep. That's
trafficking.
It is. I've done literally no other gaming. All I've done is... Oh, no, I played lots of Street Fighter this week.
Okay, that's good. That's something.
That's something.
Yeah.
But I only played Street Fighter. Like I only played Street Fighter when I wasn't. I was farming for shiny clobberpusses in between matches of Street Fighter, so I was still even doing that at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Did you remember to play Street Fighter because like there's the word clobber in Clobberpuss and you needed to clobber something? Or
Boo this man.
no?
Yeah, no, boo.
Okay,
No,
all right.
lame.
All right.
Yeah, move on. I am not worth discussing this.
I'm just curious if we're going to get back from our after Christmas break and discover that you still have no progress, and that'll just be soul wrenching.
Statistically, probably. I don't know. I don't even know I don't know what numbers are anymore.
No. Matt, do you know what numbers are?
No.
No.
This was a mediocre procedural crime drama from the early 2000s. Anyone remember that TV show Numbers?
Yeah, I vaguely remember.
Yeah.
Like a mathematician who solved crimes with the power of math.
So that wasn't my gaming of the week.
Oh, really? I bet there's a Numbers video game. Hang on, you keep.
There probably is. I feel like I vaguely remember it. Anyway, no, I put more time with Death Stranding. I mentioned the fact that I was enjoying it. I just got to reiterate how much fun the delivery mechanic is. Like weirdly fun. So I'm in this area at the moment where I've been slowly like expanding out, but every time I get to a new location, and it's like a small one where the first delivery you make to them, you end up getting like 2 stars with them. So like they've got a star rating system in each one that goes up to 5 stars. And once you hit 5 stars, you get a star from them that actually goes on your armor that you wear, your clothing. And so whenever I come across somebody that the initial delivery is just 2 stars straight up, I'm like, oh, that's not going to take long. And I start just like to try and like increase into 5 stars. And yeah, it's addictive. It's weirdly addictive.
It
just
is.
like running around and making deliveries and everything.
Especially because that 5th star has like as you unlock the other stars, you get material rewards. Like you get either brand new pieces of equipment or just like upgraded versions. The 5th one, that star on your pants, that's just bragging rights. It really is. That's just creating a little American flag on your pants.
Is the star kind of shiny? Like kind of sounds like some, sort of psychological.
Chiralium clobberpuss.
Yeah. Is the star in your pants beaming by any chance? Is that a thing? No. Okay.
No.
I don't want it then.
But yeah, I'm completing individual areas, making deliveries to them, and then once I've gotten the 5 stars, it's like, fuck you guys, never delivering you to you again. And then just moving on to
premium deliveries.
Yes, I'm doing premium deliveries.
Good.
Yeah. When
a lot more likes that way.
Yes. Obviously, I love the fact that like you never get paid, you just get likes.
Yeah,
it's basically doing it for the Vine.
You're literally getting paid in exposure.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going on.
In oxytocin, that's in like the law. That's the whole thing. Where like in that world, people aren't producing enough oxytocin, so they need to like get likes in order to feel happy.
I do genuinely wonder how Adrian would feel about Death Stranding. Because of the fact that when I was playing Hypnospace Outlaw, he had commented on the fact that it felt like work. And Death Stranding 100% is work.
When I say work, I mean like paperwork, not like
Because Adrian likes grindy games, right? You like grindy games.
Well, evidently, yes.
Do you like grindy games? I don't think there's any evidence to support this claim.
Let's be clear. I do have a brain. I am capable of enjoying games that aren't grinding games. Like, let's just make that clear. I just happen to have the personality that's disposed to being susceptible to grinding.
This is true. So, Matt,
video games.
Matt, I saw you mentioning during the week that you were finding it really weird how the scoring system worked on some of the journeys. Yeah,
I should say I wasn't complaining. It was more just like, how the fuck does it work? And I was having a discussion with a game dev online, and he had pointed out that like areas you did really well in get highlighted in gold, where areas you suffered score in were highlighted in blue. And I was like, oh, okay. But I'd never noticed that. Like that little user interface thing, I'd never noticed that sort of highlighting. Like I noticed the highlighting, but I thought it was just like to separate out areas so that you could tell which space was from which. but it's still hard to kind of connect that to the score you get at the end, especially since there's like several different tiers of S rank, which is really weird.
And the highest ones you can only get on the high difficulties.
Yeah. And so like I had made the joke, like it felt almost like they were trying to make a point about like how Uber drivers just get like bullshit like stars whenever they deliver something. It's like, you know, they got there on schedule and everything like that. The car was nice and tidy. They got breath mints. They got 2 stars. Like, why? Who knows? It's just how the system works.
I think it's super intentional that there are so many layers to the reward screen, and it's like purposefully overwhelming you with stuff to try and, you know, increase your oxytocin.
It feels like looking at the back end of like a YouTube and seeing like how many viewers you have and like, you know, oh God, my stats for this week's video just aren't great. Holy shit. It feels like that sort of thing, where it just throws so many numbers at you. But at the end of the day, it's all fucking meaningless because it's just likes.
But does it make you feel good seeing it?
But it does make me feel good seeing it, because that's why I got annoyed when I was like, what do you mean you only gave me a B? This was a 40-minute delivery and I got it there in 20. Fuck you.
Yeah. Have you delivered any pizzas yet?
Yes.
I like
delivered
pizza
a
deliveries.
pizza.
Yeah,
Pizza deliveries are great.
It's not like Uber where like someone would not request you as their next sort of delivery person. Like you are it. So yeah.
Yeah, well, mind you, like the fuck you to that guy is you get automated drones to deliver stuff, and so now I've just been delivering everything via automated drones, so it breaks on the way.
Oh, nice.
Can I tell you a story about Uber?
No.
Sure.
Do it.
One time I had to go on a work trip, and my boss was going with me, but she'd left her luggage in the company car that a different employee was using over 45 minutes away. So we hired an Uber driver to go pick up the suitcase from the other person's car and drive it to the airport.
Without having a passenger.
There was no passenger. They just ferried the suitcase to the airport.
I mean, they're going to get paid for it, so...
Yeah. We gave them an S rank for that.
Yeah.
We felt that
Nice.
deserved it.
Nice. Have you come across any of the celebrity cameos like Conan O'Brien or Keeley? Yep.
Like, there's you meet Keeley, like, within the first 30 minutes.
It's pretty early.
Something like that. Like, it's really early on. Actually, no. The start of the game is really slow. It feels like the first 30 minutes, or probably like the first 4 hours.
So some of those like cameos are pretty like hard to pick because a lot of them are like weird directors or Japanese celebrities.
Well, some of them have got the different voices for the characters too. Like Jeff Keighley's cameo actually has Matt Mercer voicing it. So
I think that's nearly all of them, except for, and because even Conan, he's only in it like once, and then he gets replaced. So I think pretty much all the other characters are voiced by other people. Like I know Edgar Wright is, and the other director with the big beard.
Yep.
Yeah, Del Toro is. Yeah.
Del Toro is the first one you see, and that is easily within like the first 10 minutes.
It's an interesting design decision. You got to wonder if he did that deliberately to try and like force your brain away from thinking it's like the person in real life. But
Del Toro's not an actor.
No, I know, but I mean, has he been in the public eye enough that people would recognize him? Do you think? Probably not, really. Actually,
probably not. But they do brag about it whenever they actually introduce the characters.
Yeah,
like it pops up and says like the character and then played by blah.
Yeah,
I think Del Toro not being voiced by Del Toro is totally because Del Toro is a busy man doing his own job and isn't a voice actor. So they just
yeah, that's fair.
Eddie Murphy was the voice of the dragon.
Eddie Murphy was. You haven't even watched that show. That joke's from.
No, I've just heard you say it a lot.
from Spaced.
It is Spaced.
Starring Simon Pegg. But the director of Spaced, Edgar Wright, is one of the celebrities in.
I knew that, and that's why I said it.
Yep.
Sure. All right.
I didn't realize we were getting into dumb fact territory now.
No.
Who are you talking to, buddy?
Oh, fair.
You want to talk about dumb facts? We've got an entire segment for that. So let's move into This Week in Industry News. So I want to kick this off by chatting about something that I thought was, we haven't talked about for a little while, but it was kind of cool. So you guys are aware that a little while back earlier this year, there was a expansion to Grand Theft Auto Online involving the opening of the Diamond Resort Casino. Remember hearing about that?
Yeah.
So Interestingly enough, because it kind of intersects with the area of the industry that I work in, sort of my day job now, I've been following how successful that has been for 2K and Rockstar. And it turns out, like it's ridiculously effective. And they're doing this thing that kind of...
Now, why is it successful? Sorry, I'm confused.
All right, so there's really...
People spending real money in it.
No, there's really tricky gambling laws that they have to be concerned with when it comes to like gambling in video games. So you can't actually have... it's not easy to transfer into a real cash money payout, for instance. So what they can do is people can use real money to invest in sort of game currency and then use that for the activities in game, as long as there's not a payout sort of in standard terms. So, I mean, there's other ways that companies can and have gotten around that thing, but for the purposes of GTA Online, the key factor is, yes, money can go in, money can't come out in a real world sense. So you're basically, playing in game with game currency, and that's it. You can do stuff in game with the currency though, because obviously money in GTA is like built. It's the cornerstone of just about everything. So you can buy, businesses with your cash in game. You can buy other activities. You can buy weapons. You can buy all that sort of stuff. So, so people are using it as an interesting kind of mechanic in game, but it's also built in a way that like a lot of it's RNG. Like there's not a huge amount of skill involved in a lot of these.
Gambling is
games.
RNG.
Well, I mean, some gambling has a higher skill element than others. But yes, there's obviously
house always wins,
weighted against the player. Yeah, absolutely. And it's not like you can save scumming your way through this like you can in some single player games. So yeah. But that being said, like people love it. People love that kind of attraction. They love playing online casino games, and they're obviously getting their dopamine hit from doing it. But the one thing that was missing with that expansion, which they are actually introducing now, is they're actually turning the whole casino sort of ecosystem in game into another ground for a new heist. So anyone who's played Grand Theft Auto Online knows that while there's a lot of really fun activities in the game, the heists are probably the top pinnacle. Like actually setting up like the heist activities and doing all of the missions to kind of get your crime crew together and sort of lay the groundwork when it comes to getting ready for a heist. That's kind of like where the real fun part of the game is at. Because it's kind of like, it's almost like the GTA Online equivalent of a raid almost. It's probably the comparison that I draw. And we haven't had a lot of new heists since the game first came out. Like they launched with no heists, and that was a big thing when they added them. They added about 3 or 4, I think. They had one that they added a couple of years ago when they had this huge expansion for like supervillain type lair underground bunker complex things. It was like a very kind of James Bondy themed expansion. And then they've just added this new heist with the casino stuff. So it's actually pretty big news for the game because we've not had this kind of thing for a while. So, but yeah, it just goes to show like this many years in, like that game is still making ridiculous amounts of bank. Like the last 12 months for Grand Theft Auto Online, I would almost guess could be one of its most lucrative because of this casino stuff. So still doing great guns. And there's some really good quality of life changes with this expansion too. Like when you actually start to invest in having like your own private quarters in the casino high stuff, you actually, the area that you buy, I think, is like a retro game arcade. And a lot of the practice missions to run the heist in this case are actually simulated in the arcade games that you can play in the arcade, which I think is a cool, interesting take on it. And you have like a huge panel where you can access your other businesses from the one location, so you don't have to sort of drive around to all your other spots. You can do it all from the one spot. It's it's cool.
What is the real world money relationship with the casino? I don't understand.
You spend real world money on fake money and gamble with fake money.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
So you know how with Grand Theft Auto Online you can buy shark cards to get in game money.
No. Adrian, no.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. You don't know. Yeah, anyone who doesn't understand that, you can basically pay real world money to get currency in the game, and gambling is one of those things you can do with it. So yeah.
All right.
So that's it.
But the whole point is that you can't cash it back out.
Yeah.
Because that would be.
It's like, did you play pachinko in Japan, Adrian?
Yeah. This is making me think about it. Yeah.
It's like
do you guys know about pachinko in Japan? You know, they have a law over there where you can't legally gamble. So the way they get around it with pachinko is whatever you earn playing pachinko, you get prizes from a counter a la time zone, and then you take those prizes around the back of the building, and there's a little window where you put the prize on the counter, and then a little hand comes out and takes it and then slides money out, and they actually buy back what you won, and that's how you gamble.
So it's like two separately licensed businesses, and so you're just selling your prize to the other business, but they're not connected.
That's really legally interesting. And that reminds me of something that I found today, which was like a horror trope from Japan with a hand coming out of a toilet and stroking you.
Oh,
on the
yeah, I saw
yeah,
that.
the
The
yokai.
pachinko thing I did when I was there, I remember doing it. I went into a pachinko parlor, won a prize, and then cashed it in at it's like a little post box slot about that big. And sure enough, there was like an LED screen that came up top that gave you directions, and this hand just goes, "Meep." It was weird and creepy.
Interesting. So what happens if you accidentally put something that's not the prize there? Is there like a human behind that you can
I
talk to?
assume you get stabbed.
Yeah, Yakuza step out.
Yeah.
Yeah, seems right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting. All right. Matt, you want to go next? What do you got tonight?
Yeah, sure. So some indie news that's been going around at the moment. A whole bunch of indie developers on itch.io are getting issued takedown notices at the moment for the use of the phrase "choose your own adventure," because
Really?
apparently
By R.L. Stein or through Goosebumps?
no, it's actually owned by a children's book publisher called ChooseCo, who owns the right to that term. And it's been a whole bunch. It's only small indies. It's tiny little indie games that are always getting taken down. It's just a dick move.
Well,
Yeah.
is it though? Because the legal background to these cases often are that if they don't protect their IP in all cases, then when it really matters, they don't have a leg to stand on.
Yeah,
Yes, sorry.
yeah. I was gonna say, like, this is also the company that issued a takedown to Bandersnatch.
Oh, okay.
Because Bandersnatch on Netflix also used the term "choose your own adventure."
So it's the wording around that particular phrase that's the sticking point.
Choose your own adventure is their trademark term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, you're right, Luke. They legally do need to enforce their copyright, otherwise it can be challenged later. But the bigger question is, should they be allowed to trademark choose your own adventure in the first place? Is that term not public domain? And I think choose your own adventure should be public domain.
Enough time's passed.
I feel like it was not trademarked to begin with until people started using it.
Yeah.
And then it got trademarked. It's one of those things that got trademarked that people were like, well, we don't need to worry about this because it's a phrase, not really a slogan.
If they'd made like a book series called like Choosies or something, and then other people were calling their books Choosies, then sure. But
Absolutely.
choose your own adventure, come on.
Is a phrase, absolutely. It strikes me as weird. It reminds me of there was like a case not that long ago about somebody wanting to trademark a color. Because
a lot of companies do that.
And it's like, well, no, you can't do that. But legally, there's not a lot stopping them from doing that. And
Cadbury purple. Can't,
Yeah.
If you're a competitor, you can't have the same shade purple as Cadbury.
Yeah,
A lot of car manufacturers do it. They have like unique tints.
Yeah.
And this what strikes me as odd because like this is for like children's books, and if it was another children's book that was using the phrase "choose your own adventure," I could like buy it a little bit. But this is indie games being called out, and freaking TV series by a children's book publisher that apparently hasn't published anything in a long time and is basically just enforcing their rights over that term. It's really, really weird.
It seems like a pretty easy fix on the part of the indie dev, though. I mean, would it be that hard to change the wording to choose your own story or choose your own tale or choose your own journey?
Choose my own adventure.
Yeah. It's not a big issue for them. It's mostly one of those things where indie devs have been told, like, be aware of it.
Yeah.
Because it's such a, like, you hear choose your own adventure, you know exactly where it is, right?
Yeah.
But you certainly, you're right. Like, it's easy enough to go and say choose your own story, and then you just avoid that problem entirely. But keeping an eye on every single person that's a trademark troll like that is fucking hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a sucky issue for the indie devs, but at least it's probably remediable. So
Fun fact, I, as a child, owned 96 of those books. And I remember clearly because there was 4 that I was missing from the first 100. So
Of Goosebumps?
no, of Choose Your Own Adventure, like that entire series. Yeah,
One for every year that you'd been alive at that point.
All right.
I was going to make the joke, as an adult, he has thousands of them.
No, I actually regret not keeping them. I really do. I don't know how many they got up to. Surely it wasn't that many. But yeah, that was a long running series, and there was a lot of crap ones, but there's some really, really good ones too. So yeah. One where you turn into a shark is one that I remember quite fondly. It was super weird. No, anyway. Way before your time, Adrian. All right. Christian, what do you got tonight? What's going on?
Bioshock is back in POG form.
Yay!
Wait, what?
No, that's the difference. But no, 2K Games, so the original publisher, who Irrational Games, the Bioshock dev headed by Ken Levine. They made Bioshock 2, etc. They folded, and now several years later, 2K Games is founding a new studio called Cloud Chamber that's going to be working in 2 different cities, and they are working on a new Bioshock game. So there's a couple of some staff who didn't leave when Irrational closed to join Ken Levine's new studio, who are still there, who are on it, and then a bunch of other devs who have worked on other cool games in the past. So it's one of those weird like ship of Theseus problems, like happens a lot in the game industry, which is like, is it a real Bioshock game? Is it missing the special sauce? Who knows? Does that matter? Like, are the majority of gamers gonna even know that Irrational closed and this is a new studio, etc.? Yeah.
Well, Ken Levine's not involved in this one, from what I understand.
Nope, not at all. He's got his own company, and he's been like, I was reading about that today actually. As a quick aside, it seems like people are trying to figure out what Ken Levine's doing, and it seems like he's developing tools for emergent narrative. So instead of having procedural narrative, so he wants to create systems where like a procedural world, you can create stories in games procedurally that will seem like good real stories, but they're created procedurally.
So instead of choose your own adventure, it's like select your shock.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, but that's just an aside anyway. That sounds like a cool idea. But no, new Bioshock game, and there are some rumors. Jason Schreier last month had a post, a Kotaku article with some rumors, and it seems like it might be a live service game or have some live service elements in it, which of course turns me off completely. There's a quote from a job hiring where they said, so they're obviously not naming Bioshock at this time, but the game. So they're saying, the world, by contrast, is something we are designing to be alive and engaging past the main narrative arc. To leverage this, we want to build a post-narrative set of systems, quests, and player progression that will give our fanatic fangirls and fanboys more content to experience on an ongoing live service basis. Blah, 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 blah. Count me out.
I really don't like the wording regardless of the live service link in.
Yeah.
Jason Schreier also had actually pointed out that apparently this has been in development a lot longer than they indicated, and it's been swapped around between teams. So it's like this team has been developing it for the last 2 years. Yeah. But apparently it existed before then with another team, and then another team before that, which is kind of not a good sign. I can see why they would go for the live service thing, though, because Bioshock games never make back their money. Like, they're massively popular, but they just never make back that money. They're just hugely expensive to develop.
Surely in the world that we've had recently of extremely engrossing single-player worlds, and the games that have been massively successful in recent years with that, like your Sekiros and your God of War and Spider-Man and
Persona,
that kind of stuff.
Nier, Devil May Cry.
There's enough examples now of that model still working if you find the right sort of subject matter.
Single player games aren't dead.
Yeah.
No. It's not. I'm not saying that single player games are dead, but Bioshock was always massively expensive to develop because of the fact that they would develop a whole bunch and then toss it out and start over. Do a read up sometime on the development of Bioshock Infinite. It used to have horse riding. They finished it. It got tossed out.
Right.
So that's what made it so massively expensive. The final
horses kept riding off the edge of the world.
Yeah, it was one of those things where like it would be developed, it'd be polished, and then they'd go, "Nah, we're not going to put it in the game."
That's just the perfectionist nature of the studio design methodology they've got.
Well, it's not really a good methodology if you're getting to finish the thing and then saying it's not for the game. You know,
well, there's other studios that do that too. I mean, Blizzard is well known for wholesale chucking out stuff that they've developed.
That's working so well for Blizzard right now.
That's true.
They were famous for that.
Well, they wouldn't toss out stuff; they polish stuff. But yeah, go ahead, Adrian.
What is the title of the new Bioshock game? Christian, go.
Unannounced.
Bioshock unannounced. Matt, what is it? Bioshock.
Oh, you were like, I thought you were actually asking me what it is.
No. Matt, Bioshock.
Finite.
Bioshock Finite. Luke, Bioshock.
I'm going to be controversial and say 3.
Bioshock 3. Christian, Bioshock.
It's going to be called Bioshock Angels.
Bioshock Angels.
Interesting. No, but seriously, they could do Bioshock 3 because Bioshock Infinite was never called 3, from what I understand. So, yeah. So they could go back to Rapture and actually pick back up from there and do that.
Rapture's dead. No one cares about Rapture anymore. It's been done. It's old news.
Yeah. I'm just saying it's a possibility. So if they really wanted to tap into that nostalgia, they could push that button.
They could.
Yeah. So, interesting. Yeah. I still have not played a single Bioshock game. I feel like I should.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, here's a question for you guys that have played enough Bioshock to know. If I just played Infinite without playing 1 or 2, would that impact my enjoyment negatively at all?
I don't think it would.
No. The ending will be really weird, though.
Yeah, not of the game itself, but maybe the ending.
Okay.
Yeah.
But even the ending, the ending. But that's
Not the minute to minute, no.
Yeah. You will care a lot more about the ending if you at least play Bioshock 1.
Oh, okay.
You
but
don't
not
need to play
two.
Bioshock 2, but
Not at
one.
all.
Yeah,
No,
not
you-
2.
You don't have to care about 2.
Okay.
I think 2 is massively underrated, but it doesn't really have a place in the series as something that you need to care about.
Right.
And
Welcome to the circus of value.
one is still very playable as well.
Oh yeah, it's very good.
Well,
One is easy.
It's got the new collection remaster as well that I'd obviously pick up. But
One is just great. The problem with 1 you have these days is that the awesome plot twists in it that made the game so great will all have been spoiled for you. So
okay, yeah. So it's a matter of whether I've forgotten them or not.
And like certain directorial decisions that were like really new and groundbreaking at the time have been kind of repeated and done before, so it won't seem as like original as it did at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember my first experience playing the first Bioshock. I remember I was living with Christian at the time.
I remember.
And it was the first time I had my own PC, like my own computer that was dedicated to gaming, and like started playing Bioshock, and like there's the intro cinematic. And then I can't remember if you were there, Christian. I think you might have been. And we were sitting there, and then we were like, "Oh shit, the game started!"
Yes, I watched that. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like a surreal moment where like it was so engaging that like we hadn't realized that the intro cinematic had blended into the start of the game.
I've had a few games that have done that to me. It's a really good feeling, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah, it's nice.
Nice. All right. Well, that's enough news for tonight. Again, sort of end of the year. Things are happening pretty slowly. That being said, I dare suspect that there's going to be quite a bit to talk about between now and next week's show, which will be our final show for the year. Because this evening, after we finish recording, we have a Sony PlayStation State of Play presentation. There's a Nintendo Direct focused on indie games happening immediately afterwards. And then later this week on Friday, our time, we've got the Game Awards, in which there's rumoured to be 10 new game announcements happening during that ceremony as well. So video games are happening this week, weirdly, in the middle of December.
Yeah.
It's the strangest
Video game
thing.
announcements happening.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyway, our
Santa likes games.
well, that's true. Yeah, he absolutely does. But
Mostly hentai games, I've heard.
Yes. Santa.
Alone at the North Pole all year round. That's all he's got to keep him going.
yeah.
Mrs. Claus is a myth.
Absolutely.
Mrs. Claus is what he calls his right hand.
Merry Christmas!
It's the one that he doesn't.
Mrs. Claus.
He doesn't trim the nails on it. So
Well, you guys know the old like why is Santa's sack so big, right?
Why?
He only comes once a year.
It only comes once a year. Fantastic.
oh dear. All right. Well, anyway, with that all being said, the current plan, sort of schedules permitting, is that some of us at least are going to try and do like a live stream reacts to the Game Awards on Friday this week. So hopefully that goes to plan. We'll post about it on the Twitters once we've got times and stuff worked out. But yeah, similar to what Matt and I were able to do for our E3 stuff earlier this year. Could be a bunch of fun. Matt's getting dental surgery though, so we'll see.
My face will probably be like,
yeah. So,
but I'll probably still be there.
TBC.
because I'm a glutton for punishment.
absolutely, yeah, that's it. Be fun to watch and to follow along anyway. But tonight, before we get to all of that, we have a very special main topic to do tonight. So tonight is part 1 of our annual Wrap the Year Up Party Favorites episode. So the way this works is that over the course of this week and next, we're going to be hitting 10 categories of different things that we've experienced during the year that we're going to sort of think back and talk about. And for part 1 tonight, we're going to be chatting about, in no particular order, our favourite character. We're going to be chatting about what our favourite setting is in a video game this year. We're going to chat about our back catalogue favourite, so an old game that has sort of come to the forefront in our focus again for whatever reason. We're going to chat about our most emotional experience that's video games adjacent, and we're going to chat about our favourite small games. That's kind of like our indie category, without getting into the debate about what is and isn't an indie, because that's whatever.
It's a small game. It's a tiny game.
Yeah. Someone raised a really interesting point to me today, and that was that the Game Awards category for the presented by Subway sort of fresh indie award, technically Death Stranding could have been nominated for that this year.
Technically.
Yeah.
Technically, Destiny could have been nominated.
Fresh indie, under Fresh they couldn't, because it was not their first game for Bungie.
But Goose Game also still was.
Yeah, that's true. The precedent's broken anyway. But
so what does fresh mean? What is fresh?
Not rotten.
Have to ask.
What is fresh?
It means beetroot is extra. That's what it means. It means you got to pay extra for beetroot.
Yeah, beetroot.
This is the real question.
As you said that, I got the image of like a young teenage girl going, beetroot is so extra, you know.
I just thought that Jared paid 20 years extra for his route.
Oh, that was good.
He couldn't beat that route. Anyway,
that was good.
Yeah. So anyway, let's kick off with favorite characters tonight. So we're going to go round table and chat about who our favorite character of 2019 in video gaming is, and then we'll switch up the order and sort of move on through the others. So. Who should we start with tonight? Christian, I'm going to throw to you first tonight. Who is your favourite character in 2019 video games?
My favourite character in all of 29 video games that I played is from Fire Emblem Three Houses, and it's a character named Dedue.
Dedue.
So Dedue is a retainer, like a kind of bodyguard / servant to Dimitri, who's the head of the Blue Lions house. Mm-hmm. And the thing I liked about Dedue is he has like a very tragic backstory where his entire like culture were basically genocided, like massacred by Dimitri's like people, but Dimitri spared Dedue, like saved him, and in return Dedue like owes a life debt to Dimitri, and they're like close friends, but it's a really weird dynamic where he's like close friends with somebody who basically instigated a genocide against his own people, and his culture is destroyed. And then through a lot of the character interactions with the other classmates, he kind of learns to get in touch with his extinct culture. Like he's given up on his people. They're from a place called Duska. He's like, that's history. Let it rot. But then he ends up like cooking some of his native food and singing some of his native music. And I kind of like the journey he goes on about rediscovering his culture and finding an identity other than being a friend to Dimitri. And he is like a tragic character, and he's a deadly serious character. Like a lot of the Fire Emblem characters are like sort of flitty teenagers and like very silly, but Dedue is like a very kind of hardline character, and I like that. But he has like a soft side to him as well. I don't know. I just thought he was a character.
Okay, nice.
And I think a lot of people underestimate him. They just think he's like just a hard ass, but when you actually get to know him, he's got a lot going on. So
let me ask: is he a character that you really kind of miss out on seeing a lot of this stuff if you don't pick that particular house?
Yes, yeah, because you can recruit all of the characters except for the house leaders and their like direct number twos. Mm-hmm. So like he's the direct number two to Dimitri, so you can't recruit him.
Dedue, so you need number two.
Dedue, number two. Dedue. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
He's a cool guy.
Yeah, sweet. All right, well, let's move to another cool guy. Matt, what do you got?
I'm a pretty cool guy. I am my favorite character of the year.
No longer such a cool guy. Anyway.
No. So my favorite character of the year is actually a very recent one, and I'm choosing BD-1 from Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
BD-1?
Last Jedi. Fallen Order. Fucking
from Jurassic Park.
BD-1. Yeah. No.
And Law and Order Special Victims Unit.
And
he also played Madam. And he played Madam Butterfly on Broadway.
Yep. And he played...
Schooled, Luke! I fucking schooled you!
No. He played... what's his face on Gotham as well?
Yeah. Hugo Strange.
Hugo Strange, yep, absolutely. And he was also most recently in Mr. Robot as well. So
I didn't realize this robot had been around so much.
okay, so actual BD1 the droid. So
yeah, so BD1 is a little like bird-like droid that you meet fairly early on in the game. And it's basically like your explanation as to how you can heal. It gives you stim packs, and you can like slowly increase the amount of stim packs you can carry and everything like that. It has some really cute customizations that you can get for it. Like some of the different color settings you can get for it. I actually paused and went, oh my God, that is adorable. And then immediately put that coat of paint on him because it was just really, really cute. The way he moves around is fantastic. But probably the biggest thing that kind of surprised me is just how much importance he has in the narrative. In a big way, for me, in Fallen Order, he was actually like the hero of the whole thing. Like, not like he was the person running around and killing everyone, but like he was the character that kind of stood out. And so much the narrative kind of rests upon BD1 and the stuff that BD1 knew and basically helped you understand. It basically used to be the droid that belonged to this Jedi Master. And it knows things this Jedi Master had passed along to it.
Terrible things.
Terrible things. But in the process of having been given all this knowledge, BD1's memory was completely wiped. So it only knows what its master had kind of told to pass along, and its knowledge only gets unlocked when it goes to new locations and such. And quite frankly, in my opinion, I think it is now the coolest droid in all of Star Wars. Like, everything about it is so cute. It has a super cool personality. One of the first things you see it do early on in the game is it actually goes and lunges at a little monster to defend you. Like, it's got spirit and courage. Like, it doesn't just kind of sit back and make screaming noises. Like, it is actually really, really cool. And then by the end of the game, like, there's some really dark moments at the end of the game where the character that pulls you out of them isn't the other characters on the crew, it's BD1. And it's awesome. It's really, I always have a massive soft spot for Robot. Let's be honest. Like, my number 2 was from the Outer Wild. Outer Worlds. God damn it, that's going to happen a lot.
The Moon Dude?
No, not the Moon Dude. The cleaner
Cleaning guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the cleaner bot. But it just didn't have enough personality, and I felt there was a missed opportunity. But BD1, yeah, a super cool narrative and a really, really cute little robot. It's an ATST. It's a tiny little ATST.
Kind of, yeah. A little bit, yeah.
ATST.
All right,
Adrian.
ATST.
What do you got? And don't say Clobberpuss.
Do say it. Say it.
Well, then you better move on because that was my
Is it really?
yeah.
What?
All of Adrian's stuff is going to be Clobberfoot. We're calling it right now.
Oh, Jesus.
Look, I thought about it, and I haven't played a lot of games this year, and I have to think of it not as like the character that has the best development for me, because I haven't played I haven't played Red Dead, I haven't played Fallen Order, I haven't played many strong narrative games this year. So then, as far as, favorite characters, which character have I seen the most? Which has been burned into my retina the most this year?
Which one of you invested the most time into engaging with?
So it's got to be Clobberpuss.
Which one, Adrian?
It's one Clobberpuss that just keeps running into me every 5 minutes. No, every
But
1 minute
the
for
one
the
you
last
want.
140 hours. No, the one I really want. That will be my actual favorite character of the year once I get it.
Yeah,
That'll be
now.
2020,
Yeah, the Clobberpuss species is my favorite character of the year.
So the problem here is that this is your Roadrunner to your Wile E. Coyote, and you know how that story ends. So
Yeah, the coyote wins, right? He eats the Roadrunner and proclaims victory and, moves on with his life.
you wish. I'm actually strangely satisfied with that answer.
This is a joke. This is a gag pick, but it's not. This is my real pick.
You obviously you are investing that time because you do like Clobberpuss so much. So
Well, I don't really. That's the thing.
I actually hate Clobberpuss.
I don't love
just-
it more than other Pokemon. It's just the best of this generation.
Adrian hates Clobberpuss, but not as much as he hates himself, which is
That's
why
exactly
he's trying
right.
so hard.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Dear God.
That's it.
All right. Well, this is the category for me above probably all others that I struggled the most with, because unlike other years, I didn't actually feel there's any one particular character that really stood out to me this year. So I think there's been a bunch of good ones, but none that I would say are amazing. And almost every character that I could pick, there's been a couple of things about them that has kind of turned me off a little bit, even though there's been a lot of stuff that I really like. But upon reflection, I think the one that I settled on as being the one that I connected with the most and enjoyed my time with them the most this year, I'm going to pick my favorite character of 2019 as Jesse Faden from Control. So... yeah. I thought that she was a really interesting character in terms of her story in that game and her development, and actually sort of learning about these powers that she had and sort of discovering what they meant and what her place in the setting and that kind of thing in the Bureau was. She gets thrust into like a role of responsibility very early on, and a lot of the story is about how she sort of grapples with that and actually comes to terms with what's going on inside the organization, as well as her sort of now being in this position of power where she can do something about it. The voice actress, who I think was Courtney Hope, I thought did like a fantastic job voicing Jessie. And one of the really big sort of appeals with the character for me in terms of how you play with her is that sort of inner monologue that she's always sort of got when she's talking to herself the whole way through the game. And it's done in a way that is actually not forced. It feels quite natural, and it's not weird and off-putting like it can be for some other characters, sort of, you know, just constantly talking about what they're going to do. The way she does it is actually quite appropriate, I felt. I think she was genuinely quite likable and interesting and had a lot of cool stuff to say, and her arc was just really compelling. So I'm picking Jesse Faden for my pick this year. So
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. I can say that.
Yeah, that's that. All right, so moving on to the next category. What say?
Just wish that you were Jesse's girl.
Just wish that he were Jesse's girl. Jesse's girl.
Adrian, kick us off with
like that.
What your favourite setting was this year, if you had to pick.
My favourite setting was Clobberpuss. No, it's not.
The patch of grass that he lives within.
My favourite setting, I mean, I know you guys probably predicted this long before it was going to come up, but it's Sekiro. The world Sekiro is set in just drew me in straight away. I was sort of enamored with it the entire time that I played that game. And it's the way I sort of look at a lot of these categories is like what is resonating still in my mind when I think of like setting. And when I think of best setting, there's nothing else that springs to mind apart from that. So I think the aesthetics of the game and the art direction and the way it looks and the way you feel when you're in that world, it truly drew me in. So I think it'd have to be that.
So would you call the setting for Sekiro fantasy feudal Japan? Would that be accurate?
Yeah. Is it historical? Not.
I mean, it's set in a historical period, the Sengoku period, but it's a fictionalized version of that period.
Yeah. There you go. I mean, it's almost kind of like Hercules in a way, like in its kind of the way you kind of experience the world. I remember like watching Hercules as a kid, and in the opening credits, if you remember, there's this bit where this big like plesiosaur comes down and bites Hercules. And I remember as a kid, I never got to see the episode where that happened, and I was like, I want to see that episode. It looks awesome. Sekiro is kind of like that, where like every time you turn a corner, there's something awesome to look at. And for me, I'm very much a visually sort of stimulated gamer, so I found it colorful and engaging the whole way through. Not only because of the characters, more so because of the setting.
So maybe you'd call it more mythological as opposed to straight out fantasy, because it's kind of grounded in historical beliefs and cultures in a way.
Yeah. I mean, mythology is correct. It is mythology. So it's good. And like thinking about when I close my eyes and picture Sekiro, I'll get like flashes of like, oh, that armor, that piece of armor, that weapon, oh, that cliffside, you know, that little bit of water I remember swimming in, or that underground bit. Like, there's just a lot. Like everything is kind of iconic. There's no dead space. There's no dead like areas of area in the game. I feel like every area you pass through has weight.
Or has a relevance, or tells a story. Yeah. I mean, I didn't get as deep into the game as you guys did, but I would definitely agree from what I saw. Yeah.
And actually, it just reminded me of something Christian pointed out to me, which I hadn't spotted the first time I played through it, is that there's storytelling in the setting of Sekiro. So there's like, as you play through the game, there's stuff that you wouldn't notice, or if you do notice, you're like, oh, that's interesting. But then as you play through it again, and then the second time and the third time, you start to realize that the world around you is telling a story. So that independently of what the characters are doing, and that's like a really great sign of a good setting.
Yeah. Nice. All right, Matt, what about for you? Favorite setting?
This was actually a really easy one for me. So I'm choosing Elysium, Disco Elysium. So I kind of alluded to it when I was talking about my feelings in Disco Elysium a couple of weeks back. But Elysium is super interesting. It feels like kind of like a fantasy universe, but you have this detective noir story that's taking place in it. And so Elysium is actually like all of these archipelago islands that are disconnected from each other. And between them is this matter that's called the Pale. And it's like this connective tissue of the world. And so there's other archipelagos out there, but to get through them, you have to pass through the Pale. And the Pale can drive people insane. And so it's incredibly fascinating. It's like these... Yeah, sort of like the Warp, but like, there's no planetoids or anything like that. It's just islands surrounded by water floating in this matter like the Warp. And so there's people that have traveled between them, and it's why there's this weird obsession with disco. Like, everybody that keeps on traveling through that matter too much kind of ends out with this weird obsession about disco. And it's just the kind of world that I'm like, man, like, this is the sort of setting that I would love to run a tabletop RPG. Right? Like, where you kind of have these separated off worlds, and there's so much mystery there. And like, it never comes into play in the game other than to kind of make you go, well, I'm really fucking crazy. Did I go through the Pale a whole bunch? And that's why I am the way I am. And like, just there's little snippets and hints that are dropped at you. Like, the Pale is expanding. And so the world is kind of getting slowly swallowed up by this weird connective tissue that's surrounding everything. And they're sending probes out into space, but then they lose contact with them because they hit Pale. So even upwards, there's more of it. And so it's just this fucking fantastic kind of story about something that, in the grand scheme of things, in the grand story that you're playing out, it never plays a factor other than just like, this is the outside world from this tiny little ramshackle town that is the major focus of the game. And it's so fucking cool. It makes me want to revisit and have like a Disco Elysium 2 where I can actually learn more about that, or be a character that travels between the Pale and see what that's actually like. Because yeah, it's fucking cool. Easily my favorite for the year.
Did you actually end up finishing that game?
Yes,
Yeah, you
absolutely.
did.
Yeah. I want to go back and play it again.
Wow. Nice. All right.
Yeah.
Christian, I'm curious to see if yours is going to be a consistent theme to Adrian.
Yeah, I'm actually going to apologize to you, Luke, because if you've queued up a particular video, you don't need it, because Adrian's convinced me to pick Sekiro, basically.
Okay.
I was debating between two different games. I was debating between Sekiro and something else, but I've come around definitely to Sekiro, and the world building thing, like the environmental storytelling, that is what clinched it for me. Is you're totally right. I do remember loving those details so much. There's so many little things in the environment that you can appreciate, like second time, third time through. And like you've watched some of the videos from Vati Vidya on YouTube, does like lore breakdowns and points out a lot of those little details, and it is fantastic.
I mean, not to hijack. That's a really good point about lore. Like that's something that I hadn't really considered, is that there's no other game that I've spent hours watching lore videos on. Oh no, Destiny, but Destiny shit. So this was like, yeah, like there's enough about Sekiro where like the world is a character. Sorry.
Yeah. That's all good. Like the setting, it has such a personality and such a mood to it, such a mood to the setting. And you're right that like every area is so visually distinct in my mind, even if like aesthetically there is some similarities between different areas. There's like enemies or like elements to these areas that make them stand apart. And the interconnectedness of the world is like a trademark of Souls games as well. There's always like it's always like an interconnected world that kind of winds back on itself, and you can get shortcuts that lead back to areas, and you can always kind of see future zones from vantage points. And at first, you may not even realize what you're looking at is like a later zone, and then again, second time round, you can spot those sorts of things. And yeah, so the world it's just dripping with personality. It's dripping with like mood, and it's makes me want to actually play Sekiro again thinking about it.
Well, hasn't Adrian finished it one more time than you did?
I think we finished it the same amount of times.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it might.
We both got every ending.
So one of you needs to one up the other one, is what you're saying. So yeah,
It's not competition, man. Sekiro's about love and togetherness and slaying things with the samurai sword.
Nice. All right, well, my pick for this year is a setting that I spent a shitload of hours in, as it would turn out. And this might be one that some people will disagree with, because it's actually a old setting revisited, but I never played it when it was the old setting. I played it for the first time when it was the new setting. And for me, it was the moon in Destiny 2. So the reason why I'm picking the moon, despite the fact that some people would look at it and go, oh, it's quite bland, it's like, a lot of open sort of grey ground and craters and all that sort of stuff, I disagree, because I think that while there is that, and there's these large expanses in the open world of that kind of stuff, there is a huge amount of sort of interesting sort of relics of an old age of technology that is still there as well. There's a huge amount of storytelling in terms of some of those structures and sort of the deceased inhabitants and what's happened in there and the tech that's been left behind. But the most compelling stuff about the moon is all of the new stuff that they've added, because not only is it all of the sort of incursion that the Hive have created on the surface of the moon and below the surface in particular, but it's all the sort of Hive architecture and the structure and the way that their buildings actually look like they're organically growing out of the ground and absorbing blood of creatures that are slain on them. Like they're kind of, the corpses of things that have been killed next to those buildings have kind of been absorbed into the architecture, and the red of presumably the blood has actually been leached into the buildings and kind of given everything that really interesting sort of deathly hue. And when you start to sort of drop below the surface of the planet and see like some of the massive labyrinthine sprawls of this sort of stuff. Oh, sorry, below the surface of the moon, the setting. Okay, so if I say planet, you know what I'm talking about. But like
not the moon.
Visually, it's stunning, and some of the stuff that's hidden there too. Like I think it's probably safe now, a few months in, to spoil that there is a large structure relating to one of the big bads of the Destiny setting hidden below the surface that you find during part of the campaign, which is like a big standout thing. They make use of the setting really creatively too, where like the whole theme of the moon sort of being beset by these sort of horror creatures, like these evil spirits, like the way that they're interspaced around and add to the eeriness of the whole thing just really clicks with me. Some of the moments where you're sort of traversing those different areas and you just see like this sprawling vista of like eerie light and just hundreds of these shadow specters kind of, over the distance there. That kind of atmospheric stuff really clicked with me. I loved it. So, yeah, and I was just a huge fan of the moon in general. I thought it was a setting that maybe had the potential to be quite bland, but they just did so much with it, and there's a huge amount of variety. And I think technically, Matt, you might be able to correct me here, but technically, the Black Garden is part of the same setting as well, isn't it?
In terms of like being on the moon,
is it part and parcel? No, it's not. Okay, all right.
No, the Black Garden, nobody knows technically where it is.
So it's like
Black Garden's weird.
I do.
Piece of space somewhere. Yeah, okay. So
Adrian's watched all the
Well, hypothetically, if you were to include that with the same kind of setting, in that it was launched with the moon, I would definitely add that to it as well, because that place is freaking beautiful. So
it's the setting of Shadowkeep, just in general.
Yeah. So
I think it's really good that this category is subjective.
Righto. Look, there is a distinctive theme that I thought they executed on perfectly. So that's where I'm landing with the moon.
That's fair.
Yeah. Cool.
Adrian, your favorite character is a Pokemon. You have.
Yeah, that's true. Got no fucking leg to stand on. All right.
I've really cut my own legs off.
Let's kick into back catalogue favourite then, because I'm going to lead straight off and say the one that I'm sure is going to surprise none of you. For me, it's Destiny 2, because I played a shit ton of that this year. I don't feel like I need to embellish on that anymore. It is a game that keeps on giving for me, and I haven't felt like I've wasted any of my time in that game this year at all. So for a game that is now, in its third year, as a back catalog favorite, pretty freaking satisfied with continuing to play the crap out of that. So, yeah.
I rag on it a lot, but it is fine. It is good. I still played a lot this year as well. Like I can't sit here and give Destiny shit when I played it for like a fuckload of hours. So, yeah.
Well, it seems like where you end up with it too is that the time that you spent with it, you really, really enjoyed, and you stopped at the right time.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah,
it seems like, yeah.
And I'm not known for stopping at the right time. So.
Yeah. Let's change things up and throw to Matt. So, Matt, what was your back catalogue favorite this year?
Mine was What Remains of Edith Finch, which was something that Jam kept on prodding about, like, you should play this. And when I was going back through my Steam games this year, and I was like, oh, I can't really point to something in particular that really stood out. Oh wait, there's fucking What Remains of Edith Finch. I fucking loved that game. Like, it could have easily been my most emotional experience of the year. It's not. But it was absolutely like a standout. Like, I wish I had actually played it closer to when it came out, because in terms of like how it does its storytelling, the plot twists in it is just really, really fantastic. And it, walking simulators have a good name because of games like What Remains of Edith Finch. So 100%. Yeah.
It's a game that I would recommend to almost anybody. Actually, I think it's just distinct and unique, and a really cool trip for most people. So yeah.
And
Definitely.
Matt, what did remain?
Nothing.
His enjoyment, his memories, the stories that he tells to friends. Yeah, and
we're talking about Edith Finch,
and a very very shiny cloverpuss. Anyway,
just a skeleton.
This is technically a spoiler.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is true.
It's okay.
True. Adrian, what was your back catalogue favorite this year?
Easy pick, Street Fighter V.
Hey, nice.
Straight up. I've had one of the best gaming experiences ever getting into Street Fighter with Christian. It's been awesome, and I've enjoyed every moment of it. So
mine is too. I'll just jump in and say Street Fighter V is also my back catalogue favorite.
It's been awesome because it hasn't just been a new game. It's been like a new community, a new like style of gaming, a new device, like learning to master a new, like a fight stick and buttons and the input, learning to like go through that. Like, there's just been some really good memories, and it harkens back to some other sort of experiences I've had, playing things like DayZ for the first time, and, significant sort of milestones in my gaming life where, it's impacted me greatly and I've really enjoyed it. And I mean, even things I found challenging. Like, I remember I got the game before I got the fight stick, and I was playing on the controller and making some pretty good headway on the controller. And when the fight stick arrived, I went through this really, really frustrating maybe 2 days where I was trying to had to retrain my hands to use a different device. And even that, though frustrating, was really enjoyable. And one little thing that's made it really awesome as well is that my wife quite enjoys watching me fight matches online. Like, I get like a little bit of a cheerleader vibe from her. So she's like, "Oh no, you almost had it!" Like, and not that she's not supportive of my hobbies, because she absolutely is. But it's just nice having like a little cheer squad when I'm playing Street Fighter online. So yeah, it's been really great.
Do you think she'd actually attend an event in person with you ever? Or
she said she would. She said she'd come. Like, if there was reason for her to be there, and it wasn't. I mean, obviously, if she's just going to be standing around for hours not enjoying it, then no. But if maybe I was competing and she was there to see me compete, I'm sure she'd come. She'd probably enjoy that.
Yeah, nice. So, a question for both of you: do you think it would be the same experience if you hadn't have done it at the same time together?
No, not at all. 100% no.
The same experience.
Like, as in, would it be like a back catalogue favorite if it hadn't have been something you discovered simultaneously?
Oh no,
not at all. I have also, greatly enjoyed getting into it. I haven't put in as much time as I would like to, because I'm struggling with a weird like ranked anxiety issue with it, where I can usually only play like 4 or 5 matches and then I feel like stopping. And it's strange, but I enjoy it when I play, but I can only play it in short bursts. But it's getting into it with Adrian that's been the real treat, and getting the fight sticks together, going down to the local LAN center together and having a couple of games there, and just watching other games there, and modifying our fight sticks too. So we got like fairly cheap sticks, but then we've put in like the professional grade buttons and joysticks, and we've got custom art for them as well. So there's a real nice like hobby aspect there of creating our own fight sticks. And I also like that it's a game it's been out since 2016, but it still has a very active scene. There are really only a couple of fighting games that you can get into knowing that there's going to be a scene that you can stay with for a couple of years. Like if you were to try to get to like Samurai Showdown that came out this year, it's a lot less active than Street Fighter V that came out 3 years ago. And then with Championship Edition coming out next year, it's going to get another like hit of new players, and so I'm looking forward to that as well. So yeah, it's something that I can see myself playing a lot more of over a long period of time, if not in long sessions.
Do you both feel that there's another fighting game that you could potentially step off into and enjoy together as a mix-up?
I think I know Adrian's answer.
Yeah. Christian knows King of Fighters is my next. Or even Mortal Kombat 11. Like I really like both of those titles. I remember buying Mortal Kombat 10 maybe on the PS3. Was it 10 that came out on
9 and 10 were both PS3, I think, or at least might have been 9.
One of them, but I remember getting it and then playing it very little and being like, because at that point in time, online matches weren't doable. Like you just couldn't play online matches properly. And I had no one else to play with, and I was like, "What is the point of this?" Like, so I didn't get into it. But now, knowing that like it's all possible, I'd happily get into MK. Like, if Christian had told me it was MK11 that he was interested in, I'd be playing that as well.
Sorry, King of Fighters I've never played King of Fighters, but just from the aesthetic of it, I'd be keen to get into that if Adrian wanted to. There is a new one announced, King of Fighters 15, I think. So maybe we'll get into that. Mortal Kombat, I think I don't like it so much anymore. I used to like Mortal Kombat, but I couldn't see myself getting into it now. But then there's another series, Guilty Gear, that there's a new one coming out next year, and I'd consider getting into that if there's a scene supporting it. So
yeah.
The last thing I'll say is that the other reason I've really enjoyed this is that it rewards my style of obsession. So getting ingrained into it and going hardcore has rewarded me with improved skill and more wins.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that's really made me enjoy playing Street Fighter, is that obsessive nature that I tend to do, pouring hours into it, has resulted in a literal gain in skill. So that's what I've really enjoyed.
I compare it mentally to Hearthstone for myself a lot, and the interesting differences between it, where like Hearthstone, even when I was losing, I could play for hours and hours and hours because I felt like losing didn't feel the same way in Hearthstone. Like, I think because I'm making like decisions, and it feels like you don't drop inputs basically in Hearthstone, right? In Street Fighter, sometimes I'm trying to do things and it's not working. I'm not good enough at pressing the buttons. I'm not good enough at doing the commands, and it's not working how I want it to work. But Hearthstone, every decision I make, I can't blame anything but my own choices in Hearthstone. Whereas Street Fighter, there's a much more mechanical input to it that stresses me out.
Yeah. It must be noted that Christian and I did compare matches played the other day, and I am, 600 matches ahead of Christian?
Yeah, 700.
Like a lot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there is something to be said for hours.
I played like 100 matches online, and we worked out you'd played around 700 and something. So
Yeah.
If only you had so much more time, Adrian, to make that number even higher.
Hey, man. Shut up.
He said he's been doing both of them.
That's true. Like, the time spent waiting in between Street Fighter matches is dead time. So I've just been filling it with...
Okay, all right. Fair.
Pokemon. Yeah. With my favorite character of the year, apparently.
Oh, God. All right, well, let's move on into the most emotional experience this year. Which, is a bit different because that could be a game that has had like a particular sort of sequence that's elicited like a really emotional response, or a theme that's really connected with you, or it could be something that you've achieved that's given you a really emotional experience, or a real sort of, buzz for that thing that you've sort of gone through. So it could be, different for all of us. This is probably out of a subjective discussion, probably one of the most subjective. Christian, let's start with you for this one. What was your most emotional experience in video games this year?
So my most emotional experience this year was probably beating the Demon of Hatred boss fight in Sekiro.
Ooh.
So obviously, being a Souls game, very famous for difficult boss fights, and you get that exhilaration of finally overcoming an obstacle. And Demon of Hatred in particular was one that I found aesthetically, I really liked it. It's a much more kind of monstrous boss than a lot of the other ones in Sekiro, so it felt very different to a lot of the other boss fights. It has really cool lore supporting it. Like, it's an optional boss fight, which I think adds to the allure of it. Like the fact that you could miss it, but it's so awesome and it's so significant in the lore once you actually get to know it. I won't say who, but the Demon of Hatred is a human character that you interact with through the game, who turns into the Demon of Hatred. But unless you've achieved certain objectives in the game, like weird objectives, you won't know that. And it's like an optional dialogue line that comes out when you beat him if you have spent enough time with that character. And then it's like, oh, that's who it was. And then it was extremely difficult. One of the most difficult boss fights. I think it definitely more difficult than the final boss for me. There's one of the boss fight, which is the Owl Father, that might have been more difficult. But Demon of Hatred was definitely up there. And I also I shared a clip on Twitter of like a very emotional moment I had where I raged at Demon of Hatred because it was just like really frustrating and it like killed me in a really like frustrating time. And sharing that clip and like watching it back again and sort of chuckling at myself, I enjoyed that. And so both the highs and the lows and the lore all just combined into a really cool, meaningful moment for me. So Demon of Hatred.
Nice. That's a sweet looking boss, by the way. It like I know it's completely not the same, but it kind of gave me the Ruby Weapon sort of memories from Final Fantasy VII, like optional boss, big red Goliath kind of looking thing.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Matt, what about you? What was your most emotional moment this year in games?
I nearly went with Jedi Fallen Order.
Nearly. Oh.
Nearly. So close. I actually went with the Outer Wilds. And I think that was because like the narrative for it, like it's one of those games where you start playing it and it's like, okay, yeah, I can see this, this little exploration game. It's not really going to be about narrative, is it? And then in the first 20 minutes, that just gets flipped on its head, and suddenly you're sucked into this really fascinating story. And it's one that's all about kind of like letting go of the things you have no control over, which is fucking cool. Like, as like a game's narrative, video games are all about having control, right? Like having control over the fate of characters and like, hey, no, I fucked this thing up, so I'm just going to try it again. And I'm just going to redo this thing over and over until I win. Whereas Outer Wilds is a game where it's impossible to win. Like there is no victory state. You get an ending, and the ending is deeply satisfying, but it's not a win. The only win is in letting go of that want to win. And I think that's just fucking great. Like at the end of it, and when that kind of like poignant moment kind of hit me that this was what this was about, I actually cried because like in the grander narrative of my year, like it was just such a good story, and exactly one that I needed. I think it's part of the reasons why that game's made such a massive impact.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely Outer Wilds. Yeah.
A lot of people talking about how special that game's been to them this year.
Oh, yeah. Super special. I want to play it again.
Yeah. Nice. Adrian, what about you?
Yeah, it's also Sekiro. Like I was, I was, and again, this is not. It's kind of a joke, but I was tempted to put Pokemon because, as far as like eliciting emotion out of me, it has done that to a great degree. But when I think back on Sekiro and think about what I went through during those boss fights and sort of the intellectual engagement and the muscle memory learning, and it's purely down to the sense of victory and achievement you get when you defeat a really hard boss. And Matt, I know you're starting to get a feel for what that particular opiate is like.
I am entirely glad that I went with Outer Wilds because otherwise I'd be saying it.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, unlike Christian, I can't think of a particular boss. But I remember there being a point in the game when I changed my overall strategy, and it made a big difference to how I was tackling fights. Things like learning when to be aggressive, when to back off, and when to play it safe. And you just go through a real kind of journey of emotions playing Sekiro, I think. Like you learn to you learn to accept loss, you learn to like relish victories, and you had all the emotions that go along with that. And more than any other game I played this year, no other game has made me go like this. Oh, yes. Like no other game has done that except for Sekiro. So how could that not be the most emotional experience?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Interesting theme between all of us sort of this year, actually, like talking about achievement sort of a bit more strongly than usual. So.
The thing that Adrian just did was me at the end of Jedi Fallen Order. Like the final cutscene played. I want you guys to play it so that you can just see the final moments because they are fucking intense.
I'm 100% going to, but probably within the next 6 months sometime.
It is super smart design with how they actually finish out the story there. And like the entire time I was shitting my pants. But once I was done, it's like, oh my God, holy fuck, I did it.
And I mean, it's been common through the Souls genre, this I don't know what the way to put it, but like that adrenaline high of beating a boss. Like, and you can date it way back to like Mega Man, like getting that final shot on the boss and beating them. You know, you learn as a kid that, you know, that is like a dopamine rush and a sense of victory. But it's a whole other level when you do it in Sekiro and it doesn't feel like wasted time. All the times you've failed doesn't feel wasted because you're learning every step of the way. And every time you fail, you've learned something new. And I remember you'll go like, oh, okay, next time I need to do that. Next time I need to do that. And then you think you've beaten them, but you've only just hit the first checkpoint in the fight.
Yeah.
You're like, shit, okay, here we go again. You know. So it's just
So nothing like exemplifies that idea that you are actually learning more than when you play New Game Plus, and then you just destroy every boss. Because they're technically supposed to be more difficult, but you just know all their patterns, you know all their gimmicks, and you just destroy them. New Game Plus,
pure skill. Yeah.
Very rewarding. Yeah, no other game makes you feel like a master. Like no other game makes you feel that way.
Yep. Well, I'll continue on with the same sort of theme because mine's actually similarly related this year. So, for a number of years now, like my most emotional moment during the year in gaming has usually been something narrative linked, like usually something story related that's connected with me or resonated with me really strongly. I can't remember what I said last year, but I'm sure it was something God of War related with some of the themes in that I really sort of connected to strongly. This year is actually the same for me. It's actually about something that I achieved in terms of like a feat in gaming and that I haven't really pushed myself to do for quite some time. Like I've been kind of, you know, much more sort of chill and enjoying games as opposed to really sort of pushing and developing and learning and trying to go for big goals. This year I did though. And in terms of the sorts of things that I usually strive for, this one was fucking massive, and I still can't believe I actually did it. And I don't have a clip for this one because I'm actually wearing it right now, and it is my moment of triumph from Destiny 2 earlier this year.
We can't see your underwear, Luke. Take your pants off.
So,
the literal moment of triumph.
Yeah, the literal moment of triumph. So the shirt, to be clear, is actually not from the complete victory. Like the number of triumphs that I had to complete in Destiny 2 to actually achieve the full seal, I think was like 23 or something, and you get the shirt at 15, so it was only partway through. Matt's got the shirt as well. But to sort of get the full seal, which I think, Matt, did you actually succeed and get the seal?
No, I didn't actually push for it.
You got two different ones, didn't you? Yeah.
I've got two different ones. I actually pushed for like a Chronicler's one.
Yeah, that's it.
This shiny looking thing.
So the reason why these are so special is not only because of the physical sort of item which you can get from the Bungie reward store to commemorate your victory, and they're only available to people who complete these tasks in game, which I think is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
But for me, it was more that I actually decided pretty late that I was going to do the final run for this thing. I left myself only just over 2 weeks to actually complete all the final tasks. And for me, that included doing 3 raids that I'd not done before at all. That included a task in the Crucible, which was the Destiny PvP, which is my weakest part of the game, which required me to do 5 complete rank resets in the Crucible, which is an insane amount of games. I think I worked out it was like over 300 matches during that period to actually get done, and a whole bunch of other assorted tasks as well. And I, for some mad reason,
enslaving your children.
Yeah. Well, That was a very, very minor part, but for some reason, I decided it was actually achievable. Like for some mad reason, and Matt knows this from playing Destiny with me recently. I'm an eternal optimist when it comes to this game, much more so than I should be for certain things. But yeah, like I decided, fuck it, I'm just going to go for it, and I pushed so freaking hard, and I actually got there 24 hours before the end of the season. Like I got like right up to the line and managed to achieve it.
I have to respect it. Like seeing you do it, and then pulling it off. I'm like, fucking hell, he did that. Like, that was
I
very
remember we were
impressive,
on the
I have to
podcast.
admit.
I was sitting there doing the math on how many hours per day you needed to do it, and you fucking did it. You goddamn madman.
The only thing that has come close in the last 5 years to doing that is getting legend rank in Hearthstone, because I was in a similar sort of situation to that where I was pushing right at the end of a season, and I literally got it like I think about 10 minutes before the end of the season, and just coming in so close to the line and actually achieving victory just gives you this massive rush of holy shit, I did it. And similar to what you were saying before, Adrian, just that yes, kind of thing that you're just fist pumping the air and feeling so good about it. So you just can't beat it. You really can't beat it. And I'm sure that one day when I get into playing Souls games properly and sort of beating bosses like what you guys have just described, I'll be able to replicate that on a much smaller scale. But yeah, this was a good point of time in the year for me for that. So yeah, feeling fairly satisfied about my most.
I think it's a very good pick for you. I think it.
Yeah,
well deserved.
Yeah. All right, well, let's take it home. So the last category for tonight, we've got our favourite small games. We get to talk about some pretty cool stuff that stood out to us. Let's go reverse order again and with Adrian. So what was your favourite small game this year?
I'll tell you what. I sell Risk of Rain and Risk of Rain accessories. Risk of Rain 2 is my pick, and the reason I'm imitating Hank Hill is because I watched the entirety of King of the Hill while playing Risk of Rain 2.
I remember you saying that.
Yeah, they are intertwined in my mind. So I like when I think of one, I cannot help but think of the other, to the point where like if I think of a scene, I can think of the exact like level I was on in relation to that scene of King of the Hill. Mm-hmm. So it's that kind of intertwined. But I loved the first Risk of Rain. Risk of Rain 2 is also great. There's just not enough of it, but it's definitely my favorite small game of the year. I really, really enjoy it. And like I say, I watched, was it like 8 seasons of King of the Hill while playing Risk of Rain. So it's like just so like ingrained. Ladybird.
Oh,
Ladybird.
Do you think you'll go back to Risk of Rain at any point?
Yeah, maybe when there's more of it. Like I can't get much out of it when I'm just going back in for like a little bit extra. Like there needs to be like a chunk for me to enjoy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good and I like it and it's worth playing.
Sweet. Christian, what was your small game of the year?
Damn it, Bobby. My favorite small game of the year was Sayonara Wild Hearts.
Yeah.
So this is a game I described as, a lot of people describe as basically like an interactive album. It's music all by one artist, and you play through it in a very simple kind of rhythm game, QTE sort of fashion. But I really like the music. I really like the style and the aesthetic of the game. I think it has a nice like heart to it, and has like a nice little message behind it that you can read into it, but it's not right sort of in your face. And I didn't spend too long with it. Like I did one playthrough, which is just like an hour. So it was like a really small experience. But I thoroughly enjoyed the 1 hour that I spent with it. And I have listened to the soundtrack a lot since then. And yeah, it's just a really nice little game.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Matt, what about for you?
I also went with a tiny little game called A Short Hike, which is super cute. You play this little bird that is out with their aunt in the mountains, basically, kind of like on this road trip that it seems like you're not really up for, and you're trying to get cell phone reception, a very teenager kind of feel to it. Like, you're out in this really gorgeous wilderness and you want to get your cell phone working. And so your aunt kind of sends you out, it's like, hey, well, you probably get good cell phone reception if you go climb that mountain we used to climb all the time. And the whole story is basically just just climbing this mountain, gaining the ability.
Bird Journey?
Bird Journey. It's Bird Journey. Yeah.
Legend of Birdra?
But yeah, like you meet all these really cute characters and everything. It has a real animal kind of feel to it. I kind of alluded to the ending of the story before. It's only really short, so I kind of encourage you to go play it and actually see what the ending is, because it's a great little plot twist that gives you a greater respect for the character that you're playing as, and it's really quite emotional. It's a super sweet little game and just so brilliantly done. And it was just like a tiny little experimental project that somebody made. But I love that. It's fucking great. Yeah.
Nice. Well, my pick for this year for favourite small game was actually a not a sequel strictly speaking, but in terms of the concept, it's certainly a sequel. And that is the from the developers of Her Story, Telling Lies. So going back into this game, which is kind of the found footage sort of investigation style game where you're actually hunting through all of these video clips of these different characters' sort of interactions with each other, which are telling a story that's out of order because of the way that you're sort of navigating and searching for content. But this one was brilliantly acted. Like there's some actual sort of known actors and actresses in this one from that you'll recognise from other major shows. And the way the story pieces together is much more effective than it was in Her Story, due to the fact that you're not just looking at the footage in the same environment of the same person sort of repeatedly. It's mixed up a lot more. But the way that the story actually plays out and the stuff that you discover as you kind of go on, particularly when characters are on phone calls with each other, because you don't always know who's on the other end of the phone, it gets super freaking interesting when you start to sort of join some of the dots and work out who's talking to who about what. So, and this is one that I would actually recommend to you guys, because I think that I think all of you would actually quite enjoy this one. It's a good sort of thinker piece that gives you a fun story to follow along with at the same time. So the only thing I'm disappointed about is that one of the bigger appeals of Her Story initially to me is that I actually played that with the podcast crew back in the old days when Jam and Imogen and Ollie and I were casting. We actually played that as the group of four of us, and that was our kind of experience actually talking about the plot as we were trying to work out what to search for in the game. I would have preferred to play this game with you guys to actually do the same sort of thing as a group. I think that would have been really awesome. And now
we are better people.
True.
I did enjoy Telling Lies this year a lot as well. Didn't play the game.
Fair.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Nice. But yeah, no, that's my favourite short game of the year. So I think that's it. We've wrapped up for part one tonight. That is the first helping of our party favourites. So to look ahead to next week, next week on Wednesday evening at the usual show time, we're going to be hitting our favourite game feature and or mechanic. We're going to be chatting about our favourite moment or sequence, which I'm sure there'll be some fun stuff for that this year. Our biggest surprise, our biggest disappointment, which I'm really looking forward to chatting about this year, because holy shit, there's some interesting content to throw that way. And of course, our favourite game of the year. So check back in 1 week's time for part two when we dive into those things. I'm sure we'll have plenty to consider in the meantime. Or do we? I've already got mine sorted. I think you guys have mostly got yours too. We all kind of there? Yeah. I think we're all kind of there. Yep. Nice. And we'd absolutely love to hear from any of our listeners too. So if you've got any of the things fitting tonight's themes, so around your favourite characters, settings, back catalogue favourites, all that sort of stuff, let us know. So hit us up at the usual email, so mail@partyloaded.com. You can check us out on Twitter at partyloadedshow. Of course, on Facebook, just search for Party Loaded. And links to all of our socials as well as our YouTube and our Twitch. You can find everything at channelingame.com, of course. So that's it. So have you guys got any sort of last minute things to tick off this year in terms of games to complete that you haven't done yet that you feel compelled in the final weeks to kind of rip through? Besides Adrian. we know what you got to do, Adrian. All jokes aside, I sincerely hope that next week when we come to record, you've got some good news to tell us about your hunt.
Oh, you and me both.
Yeah.
Even if that good news is I quit.
I mean, psychologically, I have to wonder what's wrong with me. I think about why don't I want to quit? Anyway? Well, something for our listeners to think about, and send me your psychoanalysis.
The thing I was actually considering doing, which I'm sure would break you if successful, would be for me to actually pick up the game and attempt the same task and actually finish
I've been tempted to do that. Just because I'm just what if? What if I just tried it and then just got one? What would happen?
I think
Oh no!
And then it goes breaking the interface. Good job, Adrian.
Well played. All right. Well, anyway, that's it for Adrian tonight, obviously. Christian, Matt, anything you're playing this week? Anything interesting?
I'm already in that zone. Playing Red Dead 2 is already me like polishing off old games. So
Yeah, I was dumb and picked up something new, all because of a video I saw on YouTube. So I'm at least I wasn't buying Monster Energy drink.
hey, that shit's delicious.
No,
I had one today.
there's a fantastic video by H Bomber. Suggest people watch. It's a 2-hour video about Pathologic, like the original Pathologic. I bought Pathologic 2 and started playing it. And yeah, there's people that are saying that like Pathologic 2 is harder than Dark Souls. Because it's on purpose. Like it's basically like it's in the difficulty description on the highest level difficulty, it says this is the recommended difficulty because the game is meant to feel unbearable. Okay. And I'm like, I am actually kind of down for this. So I'm giving that a shot at the moment.
Nice.
I've put Death Stranding down for a little while before I burn myself out on delivering packages, and yeah, I'll probably play some Pathologic.
Yeah, I feel that Death Stranding is something you can come back to as well. Without.
Oh yeah, yeah. The controls don't suck.
Yeah, fair enough. Nice. And in your current stages, Christian, is there anything that's caught your eyes particularly, or just random stuff to finish out the year?
Just random stuff to finish out the year.
Yep, ticking those boxes. Yep. Cool. All right, well, we'll talk about some of that stuff and more, hopefully next weck. But for now, that's it for tonight. Thanks for listening. Hope you've enjoyed the show. We'll be back with Party Favorites Part 2 next week, as well as any other games that we've played to close out the year. But that's it for now. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Christian. Thanks, Adrian. Good luck. Godspeed.
Good night.
We'll chat next week. Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Night, gang.
The Party Loaded podcast is a Channel Endgame production. For this and more great gaming content, bookmark channelendgame.com.